Turn up your radio. It's time for DeLorean Talk with your host, Dave Tavers.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of DeLorean Talk. I'm Dave Tavers, VIN 10515, calling out of Las Vegas, Nevada now. As always, I'm happy that people tune in and people like the show. I love getting the feedback and just love talking to people everywhere about their DeLorean stories. I'm excited, as usual, to have somebody special on, I think. Ken Koncelik is one of the rock stars in the community, in the DeLorean community around the world, and he's joining me today. Hey, Ken, thanks for taking the time.
Oh, no problem. Enjoy being here.
You have been in the community for a really long time. You ran 20 years of DCS shows, the DeLorean Convention and Show, right?
That was almost 20 years. If you include the planning in that, it's pretty much 20 years. I think the shows ran for over a 16-year period, start to finish.
Wow. When was the first one?
First one was 1998.
98. Where was that at?
That was the first show was right here in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, Ohio.
I did it right down at the Union Terminal. I tried to find a place that had the clock tower, shall we say, from Back to the Future.
Nice.
And they had a clock that was very similar on the front of their building. It's a beautiful structure, great for the car show. And I just decided to go ahead and do a show.
Nice. So I definitely want to talk more about DCS in general and your best and worst stories and all that stuff, but let's go back a step. How did you first get involved with DeLoreans? Do you remember your first VIN number? What got you interested in the car? Of course you do.
My first VIN number is my current VIN number, 16684. It was the one that I purchased from Charles DeLorean.
Holy cow. What's that story?
Well, it's kind of a weird story, but I had actually gotten ill, and one of the things the doctor had suggested to try to occupy my mind was to get a hobby. I had not been working on cars for years, and I was doing work and traveling and stuff. And so I decided to get a car, so I bought a Jaguar. That was nice, but it didn't really fit the bill of what I wanted to do. And I was in Washington, D.C. on business, and I saw a DeLorean go by, and it had DeLorean on the license plate, coincidentally. And I thought that was a cool car. Obviously, I recognized it from the Back to the Future as well. And DeLorean Cadillac is only about 5 streets from where my wife grew up. I knew exactly where that was.
Wow.
And I went up there and I walked into the dealership where I met Mark DeLorean and a couple other people, and they showed me the DeLoreans. I wasn't there to buy or anything. I just wanted to look. And they put one on a rack and did all sorts of stuff, and I went home. And a couple weeks later, they called me back and said, well, Mark has a painted one. He's going to have his car here. Why don't you come up and we'll show you that one too? So I came up, talked to Charles again and Mark, and met Jody, and we talked a little bit, and I was on my way home, and on my way home, Charles DeLorean called my house and told my wife, your husband seems to be pretty interested in the car. I don't fit in it anymore. I have the car that he looked at the last time. If you'd like it, I'll sell it to him.
Wow.
I get home, my wife had this look on her face of, what, is something wrong? And she's like, guess who called? And it was Charles DeLorean. So I bought the car from Charles DeLorean.
Who is Charles and Mark DeLorean? I actually don't know those names.
Charles DeLorean is John's brother, and he ran DeLorean Cadillac in Cleveland, Ohio. Mark and Jody are niece and nephew.
Wow.
So they were at the Cleveland show in 2000. Well, Mark was, Jody wasn't. And Charles at the time had some surgery, so he was not available. He was planning on coming, but he couldn't. Long story short, I got the car from Charles DeLorean, and I picked it up, and I have a picture that I use all the time of John DeLorean standing by my car at Mark DeLorean's attempt to run for Cleveland. I don't know what it was, mayor or council or whatever he was running for.
Wow.
And that was in 2000. And I went up there, and John looked at my car and said, this is better than they looked when they came off the showroom. So I thought that was kind of nice. So I have that picture, which I use on a poster all the time.
Awesome. Maybe you could email that to me. I could use that as your episode photo. Or wait, are you in
I
the
got
photo as
plenty
well?
of photos. Yeah, of course.
Okay, good. Oh, that's awesome.
Why would I have a picture of John DeLorean with my car if I'm not going to be in it? So,
And so you have
yeah.
a painted DeLorean.
No,
Oh,
I
what
do
that?
not.
Okay,
Mark's DeLorean was painted. I
got it.
bought Charles' DeLorean, which was not painted, and Jody also had a DeLorean. Now, Mark and Jody, from what I understand, still have theirs. I, of course, have Charles.
Wow, that's amazing.
And by the way, my car has had the most DeLoreans in it. My car has had John DeLorean, Charles DeLorean, Mark DeLorean, Jody DeLorean. It's the first DeLorean that Catherine ever drove.
Wow.
She drove it through Brexville Metropolitan Park and almost got T-boned.
Oh,
And it was recently in the movie Framing John DeLorean. The car you see Zach DeLorean sit in is my car.
wow. I've seen and heard a bunch of stuff about you over the few years that I've been an owner, and I was thankful and excited to meet
Hopefully
you.
good.
Oh, all good. And I was very excited to meet you at DCS last year, 2018, finally.
Mhm.
But we didn't get a chance to talk that much. You were, a lot of stuff going on, and I didn't want to be foaming at the mouth, all, oh my gosh, I want to, talk to you. But I'm glad that we finally got on to do this call. So
That's fine.
your interest in DeLorean started because your doctor said, find a hobby. You got a Jag,
Yeah.
and then you end up seeing a DeLorean go by. And what was it that you knew about it from Back to the Future? But what else did you know about the DeLorean that made you say, "Oh, I want to get one of those"?
Absolutely nothing. I knew nothing about the car other than it was in, Back to the Future. It looked nice. I remembered it from the thing, and I'd never seen one up close.
Wow.
I knew where one was going to be, and it just triggered me to go take a look at it. And then from there, I started making phone calls. I talked to Bern Henninger down in the south there near, I forget the city now, in Georgia. And I called up Ed Bernstein. So those were the two that I started talking to. And after I talked to them and got a little more interested, that's when I decided to go up to see the one at Charles' place.
What year was that again?
That was 1996, I believe.
Well, and the first DCS was when?
1998.
98. So you barely had the car 2 years and you put together a big, well, I say big event. How big was that first DCS in 98?
It was about 230 people
What?
and 72 cars.
And 72, you had the car, you were not involved with DeLorean 2 years prior to that, and all of a sudden you've got a giant car show. That is
Yeah.
amazing.
I just got on the phone. I started calling people.
Yep.
I got every phone number I could get, started calling and trying to get people to show up. I got the Mid-Atlantic group to buy in with their Eastern Regional. That was the first group. And what I did is instead of going after individuals, I went after groups. I found out there were groups. So rather than trying to do an individual thing, I hit the groups and then try to get the groups involved. And I got 2 or 3 groups involved, the DCO, the DeLorean Club of Ohio, and the Eastern, the Mid-Atlantic group. I got those 2 involved, and I started talking to the group down in Georgia, and there was a couple other fractions that were being talked to, but it turned out I ended up getting 72 people.
72 cars. Yeah,
Cars, yes, I'm sorry.
That's pretty amazing.
But we did quite well with that. It was a 3-day event, and it went over. I wasn't envisioning anything like the way it turned out. The way I started, it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The location was perfect. If you see some of the pictures from that, which are you can see them on the website, DeLoreanCarShow.com.
Okay.
I think what people enjoy is you could follow the shows on the webpage, and there's thousands of pictures if you follow all of the different links and stuff that are on there. The other thing I made the car show, what started the car show, you didn't ask me that. Okay.
Yeah.
And the car show was started because I went to the Nashville Car Show for the DeLorean Owners Association. And that's where I met a whole bunch of people down there. But I noticed that only the concourse cars were looked at. And if you had a non-concourse car, you were not considered as being worthy of being in this, show, so to speak. And I thought that was kind of odd. I thought all DeLorean owners should be, taken care of.
Yeah.
I had a concourse car. I finished, I think second in that one. And, I was really happy at the time. It's like, hey, this is really pretty cool. When I tried to talk to members of the DOA at the time, they told me that, they run the show and they control everything. And I'm specific, and everybody knows this isn't any hidden secret.
Sure, no.
Had a conversation with Ed Bernstein, and he told me that, a show in Cincinnati would never work. And if I told him, well, I'll do one. He says, if you do one, only outlaws and renegades will show up. That was his exact word.
Wow.
And, he knows it. It's just kind of a joke between us. I have no animosity towards Ed Bernstein. We've had our fun over the years and stuff, and it's basically I've enjoyed their shows, and he has treated me wonderfully when I go to their shows, and I have my shows. And they're two different shows. They work great, and I wish, both of them were, well, we still have DCS going, but I wish that the DOA shows would continue, because it was a different version of a show.
Right.
And it was really kind of nice to have both.
Having more options is good.
It's better. Yeah.
Yeah. And it attracts different people, different parts of the country or world.
Yeah.
So that first year, you did not expect to have that kind of a turnout. Or you did expect?
Oh, yes, I did.
You did?
Oh, yeah. I wanted that kind of turnout. I was going to have that kind of turnout, because that's the whole point. I knew what there was in Nashville, and for me to turn around and be able to have something that could succeed, I needed to match. So I was going to make sure it happened. I'm a planner, and that's what I do. So didn't surprise me that we had, I was targeting 50 cars, which was more than what was at Nashville, not knowing how many were out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the DeLorean Club of Ohio, there was quite a few cars there. And the Midwest, there was quite a few cars there. And I started pulling cars from Chicago. So that was a good enough center. And we're centered well enough that that's why this worked so well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cars in a
Midwest.
thing. Although there's supposed to be a lot more in Florida and a lot more in California, I don't see the numbers showing up.
Yeah,
they
and
they never did.
Over 20 years, you have done the numbers. I talked to you briefly at DCS that one of your things was you picked a spot based on the number of cars that had shown up previously and showed interest, and that's why you were so successful. Did you?
Yeah, I look at a 600-mile radius and how many cars are in that radius.
600-mile radius. From that first show, was this something you thought to yourself, oh, we're going to do it every year, or when it turned out well, did other people tell you, hey, you got to keep doing it? How did that progress into every other year?
I already knew what was going on in Cincinnati. I had the numbers. I had pretty good registration. I had already looked in Cleveland which was the second show. I had already talked to John DeLorean once and thought that was a possibility. I was going to use, obviously his brother Charles and Mark as, hosts at the show, which Mark did. He did a wonderful job. And they, of course, felt it would be good to have John come out too. So that was a natural second show.
Yeah.
And we included the Bricklins in that show, Bricklin and the Lotuses that were similar to the DeLorean at the time, because it's the Lotus frame and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So we had Lotuses and Bricklins at that show, which started me thinking that if I needed to fill numbers, because I would go to a hotel, if you don't have the majority of the rooms, you don't control it. I need to control the hotel.
Right.
So I need to book enough rooms that I own the hotel. And that's what I've done over the years. It's nice when you walk in and, how many rooms do you have? Well, we got 300 rooms. Okay, I'll take them. Okay, sir, what do you want?
Right. Yeah, then they're much more willing to say, how many rooms do you need? How many showrooms or conference rooms do you need? And what else is it?
Right. Yeah. Right. The biggest area that I got and the largest show space-wise was the one that was in Gettysburg.
2008.
That was 83,000 square feet. Yeah.
Wow.
83,000 square feet of convention space. That was probably the most difficult show to coordinate what was going on, because I had two different places to do it. And we also had the Brooklyn convention with us, and they brought a lot of cars too.
Wow.
So we had 153 cars, I think, at that one. And they had like a whole bunch of Brooklyns too. And we occupied all the towers inside that. So I owned that venue. It was easy to do, the rooms in that were all ours. We had all the convention rooms. I had everything I needed there. So, that worked out fairly well. I was not focusing on a lot of the talks and stuff during the show, which I will give Rich great credit for on the show when he took it over. That's how he changed the show for me. I concentrated more on the car, the people, and the dinners and the event. I didn't concentrate because I couldn't do it and handle everything else.
Sure.
I didn't concentrate the actual guest speakers doing their seminars and things like that. Rich took that part and made it his key, and I think he's done a great job on that. Whereas I took the dinners and made it more into a show,
Yeah.
as versus a convention.
Yeah.
Which is why he is DeLorean Car Show Convention and Show, whereas I am DeLorean Car Show.
Ah, thank you for correcting me on that. DeLorean Car Show versus DeLorean Convention and Show. It worked out.
Yeah, well, I was going to just hand Rich over the, reins to DeLorean Car Show. But two things ran into a problem. Number one, it had to be filed in a different state because
Yeah.
he's in a different state. So me giving that up and giving him the name and everything didn't quite make that much sense.
Sure.
His show was different. So why not change it?
Yeah.
Let him do the new articles, and it made it easier for tax purposes because I didn't want to get confused with the IRS and stuff like
Yep.
that because I'm a C3.
Sure.
And he did what he did. So we just decided to make a clear break. I still own DeLorean Car Show.
Got it.
He owns DeLorean Car Show and Convention, although it's the show I had that I gave to him to continue on.
Sure.
And with my blessings and everything. He's done a great job.
Yeah, and I've been to 2 DCSs now. I've actually owned my car 4 years ago, and I've been to 2 of the DCSs. Were absolutely fantastic. It still breaks my heart that I missed your last one. I've heard everybody that's been in the community for more than 10 years talks about how amazing that last was at Dayton.
Yes.
The Dayton, Ohio DCS, which was just unbelievably amazing. Everybody's minds are blown from that. So it kills me that I wasn't around for that. But the fact that I get to talk to you and meet more people, and DCS is still going, is wonderful for me and all the new owners.
Well, the one thing I would encourage everybody to do on the DCS 2014, the one thing that sticks in my mind that made that different than any other show was a stupid little thing that happened. Somebody called me up and said, "Hey, Ken, I got some kids that want to put on a play for DCS. And they did it in high school. It's a 17-minute production. Can we do it at your show?" And at first, I kind of blew it off.
Yeah.
I thought this was going to be, rinky-dink, whatever. I went and saw the show, and it was good. And we had 70 kids on a stage with 600 people watching them because we had 2,000 people there that day. Now, they were just there to see the cars. They weren't there for the
Sure.
dinners and stuff, but they were just off the street people.
Yeah.
And we had 600 people packed in this room. We had a wedding proposal. We had all of the Back to the Future cast members and their mini-me's on stage. The musical is on DeLoreanCarshow.com. Go about halfway down and you'll see the video. Play the video. And you can see the video. Other people have the full video on there. But these kids put on a very high-energy show. And usually by Saturday afternoon, everybody's beat.
Yeah.
And this just pumped extra energy into the audience that carried through in that dinner. Because after 3 dinners, 3 days of DeLoreans, you're kind of tired. That threw that extra energy. And I really think that was one of the big factors, besides, of course, having Christopher Lloyd and some of the other members there that
Don't normally go to things. Yeah.
Yeah. But, Bob Gale's always been a great, supporter of this, as well as the other cast members. And that Jeffrey Wiseman usually helps me up on stage. So, we've always had good stuff. Donald Full and all the rest of them are great on stage.
Yeah.
Claudia Wells has been coming since 2002. We've had some of them coming for quite a long time. Others not so, like Christopher Lloyd. It was the first time he had a blast.
Sure.
So he got to ride in the monster, T-Rex,
D-Rex. Yeah.
and he got to ride in the stretch limo. Well, got to sit in the stretch limo. I don't think he rode in it. But,
right.
There's things like that happened. We had a car that was completely beat up, being refurbished right there on the spot by the couple that ended up getting engaged, and they said it all in their wedding video that was recorded. So that was a good story. We even had R2-D2 show up. Now, how many DeLorean shows have R2-D2?
Just amazing.
There's all sorts of weird things that we do, and my idea was to have fun, include everybody, and just make it happen.
Yeah.
It's funny because I followed a similar format. I started seeing myself getting kind of a little bit into a rut. After Gettysburg, we were starting to think that maybe we were peaking, and what we wanted to do is we didn't want to have it go down, and end on a sour note or something.
Sure.
We wanted to end on a high note. That 2014 show was a high note.
Yeah, like I said, I've heard a lot of people talk about it and wish I was there, but I'm glad that the show is still going.
Yeah, I just don't know what I could have done to top it. I mean, I pulled out all my stops.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Fantastic. When I first got my car, I didn't know that DCS was a thing. Thankfully, the owners that I met in Southern California were like, "Oh, DCS is coming up." In fact, it was less than a year after I'd gotten my car, and they tell me about it. I'm like, okay, it's, across the country. It's a couple of days, hotel, travel, all that stuff. But I was in because I was so hooked. Absolutely loved it. And I push everybody. I'm like, you have to go to DCS. It's just a must. There's no question. But a lot of people don't do it. It's time and money, but it's a pretty rare and fantastic experience. So I will not miss a DCS for sure because there's so many other people there. I literally today have friends that I've met at DCS and DeLorean Weekend in Las Vegas, and I talk to them weekly at least, or monthly at least. So a lot of great people to meet and connect with, a lot of great stories out there. And that's why I was so excited to meet you, because you're such a rock star and did such an amazing thing with DCS over the years.
Yeah, well, I'm amazed at the number of people that during the show when it's being run always can run the show better than what you can. And I think what's funny is when the show went away, there's only two people that picked it up.
Yeah.
And you got to thank Rich and his brother.
Yeah.
Everybody talked the talk. Not very many people could walk the walk.
Yeah.
No one really realizes what goes on, how much dedication and time it took.
Yep.
I traveled for my regular job. I would travel all over the country. Now, if you go back to Pigeon Forge, I was traveling all over the country, and I would go and visit all of the different DeLorean clubs throughout. The Arizona Club became very instrumental in this thing. The folks from, Utah, believe it or not, there's in that area, there's a whole bunch of people that ended up Oklahoma. There's people from Oklahoma. There's the Oklahoma contingency, as we call them, would show up. We had many, many states represented. And what I did is I made it kind of fun. And I used to throw out fun facts. Here's how many people from each state, which state had the most, blah, blah, blah. And it just continued on. And I went through the whole thing. And I would put these fun facts down and stuff. And it was kind of interesting. And it kept people interested. And also, my wife and I are into the foods. For a while, we were doing the desserts and stuff and doing some of our own cooking to keep costs down. And it got to the point where we just couldn't handle the volume with what we're doing and put it in the car and all with everything else. Because we had 3, 4, 5 trailers. But going back to what I was saying before, what kind of put an end to this, started to put an end to the show, was that we had Cliff Schmucker was a key instrument in helping me. He took over the stage, which then allowed me to do more things with the show and get some more planning in there that I wouldn't have normally had the time to do.
Yeah.
And he took that off my back. That allowed me to get into, we do the costumes. Like in Gettysburg, we dressed up in Gettysburg's costumes. Anybody that was helping with the show that I had on stage, I went out and bought an actual Civil War costume for.
Nice.
And we did that. I was always in a tux. I don't know if you heard about that or
I
not.
have.
Or the blue shorts.
Yeah.
You know,
Always
so
in
the
the
blue shorts
shorts.
became a thing after the first show. What happened is nobody knew who I was, and it was, hey, go see the guy in the blue shorts. So when I went to Cleveland, the first day I didn't wear blue shorts, and everybody said, where's your blue shorts? What do you mean? Well, you're the guy in the blue shorts. It became kind of funny. And no, it wasn't the same shorts every year. I had, those are very common style, and I had plenty of pairs. I had about 8 or 10 pairs of blue shorts. So I made sure that we kept our costs down by making our own T-shirts. We made our own awards in a lot of cases.
Nice.
Did a lot of stuff, so we got into the graphics and things like that. We published our own magazine. We weren't getting favorable coverage in other magazines,
Right.
and decided to do our own,
Yeah.
which was pretty successful at the beginning. But then it was more due to people going and getting things done online versus having a magazine.
Right.
When I started, magazines were popular. By the time I ended, we did 16 magazines, I believe. It was just to the point that people they wanted the magazine for free. They wanted it online. And
Right.
it's like, no,
Yep.
too much work.
Yep.
At least I got my costs covered the other way.
Right. That is something that I like talking to people about, is how drastically the DeLorean community has changed because of the internet. The car came out
Yeah.
81, 82, 83, and most people know that history in the 80s, but then by the 90s, all of a sudden cars started showing up for sale. You start DCS, there's a fair number of clubs starting.
The clubs were already there. The clubs were there from the breakup of the DOA. So the clubs
Right.
were there.
Yeah. But I mean, you, though, with DCS, went from kind of not quite pre-internet, because 98 being the first show, I did tech support for Internet in a Box in 94. So it would been around a couple of years, but it wasn't popular yet.
I had a website, and I had that done, but I would say that 90% of it was phone calls.
Right.
Not many people had the computers, so
Right.
it didn't do me much good. So most of 98 was phone calls. By 2000, it was pretty much internet.
Yeah. And by 2014, or all the years you had done it, I'm assuming that the internet just changed, hopefully made it easier for you to do the show and spread the word.
No, it made it more difficult.
How so?
Because at first it was just DMC News. And DMC News was on there, and you had one focal center point.
Right.
And so you did that. As you got more people, you had younger people now, because now the cars are getting older. You had young people, you had older people. You have my generation, you have the generation that's above mine, okay, that had these things before
First owners.
my generation.
Yeah.
We're going through almost 3 generations here.
Yeah.
The original groups that I've hung around with, many of them have passed on. The second generation, which is my age, they're not active anymore right now, most of them. This goes back with Dave Swingle and Marty Meyer and all them,
Right.
Bruce Benson, all those. I mean, these guys were the main body. You don't see them that much anymore. Not to say that Dave doesn't come to a show or that, but we ran it.
Yeah.
And we're not doing it now.
Right.
And the next generation of younger kids went different directions. I was one of the first. I was the outlaw, the outcast. I actually looked at cars that were modified and rewarded that in the DeLorean. The DOA, you had to be stock. And now my car's stock, and my car's concourse. That's how I like it. But I opened up to any version. We had modified cars. We had everything you could think of, stainless frames, all that kind of stuff. So we were into all that. The kids then tended to pick up, the next generation, Pat Conlins and all that. Patrick did some great things. I sold him the car, and he took the car and just, it's one of the prettiest cars out there right now. So you'll see that they run different than what I run.
Sure.
And they do different things.
That's the key, is you're open to it, and not everybody is.
Right, but they do more of their stuff online and do their comparisons back and forth. Kevin, right now, as you probably met him at the Las Vegas weekend. He's doing all this great graphics and stuff. It's online and stuff. He was to the shows. His creativity is different. The level and what they're doing with the cars is different.
Yeah.
And it's harder now. If I had to run a show now, I'd have a difficult time getting a hold of people. There's DMC Talk, there's this, there's that. There's a lot of different forums. So
Sure.
if you want to get people involved, you got to go on a multiple of different forums. Before it was just one or two.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it was just one or two. But now there's Facebook, now there's Twitter, now there's this. So not everybody now is on DMC News. Not everybody now is on DMC Talk.
Right.
I mean, with DMC News, I had everybody captive in one shot.
Yep.
Okay. With DMC Talk, okay, now I got two forums. Okay, now I got Twitter. Now I got Facebook. Now I got, and LinkedIn. Now I got.
On DeLoreanTalk.com,
Right.
I've got a list of all the Facebook pages and groups that I can find, and there are, I don't know, 60 of them. So yeah, and that's just Facebook.
It's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But in the next generation of owners, and like you said, you're second generation, I'm third generation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course, there's still some, I say older people, but there's a lot of younger people that are buying the car now and loving it. And
Right.
I don't want to say bringing it back to life, but I feel like it sounds like there was a lull in the, I don't know, mid 2010s when things slowed down, and then Back to the Future.
Well, that's because of the
economy, and then
the economy slowed down.
And then Back to the Future Anniversary came around, the prices of the cars went up, people got more excited about it, and seems like it's hung on pretty well. There's a lot of cars that you don't see cars stay for sale for very long now.
There's also a difference too, because a lot of the cars back even in the 90s, they had gotten, the novelty was over. They were starting to get beat up. There was a lot of rust happening on some of the cars because people drove them, and they started rusting on the frames. So there's a lot of things going on. People didn't know how to take care of them necessarily. Then K-Pac had the parts. There's a little different package that's out there now.
Right. There's a lot more people, vendors, to go help with fix the car, repair them, keep them on the road. Plus the knowledge of so many great owners that have fixed their cars and then helped the rest of the community.
Well, I personally have put at least 50 cars back on the road.
And I wanted to get to that as well, because I don't know what your original business is, but it sounds like you had a DeLorean shop for a long time. Is that right?
Yeah, I still have it. It didn't go away. It's still there. It's just that this is what I'm trying to make the point. One of the things is most of the cars are working now. There's more cars now working than there were back when I started this.
Wow.
The shows had a lot to do with it, because people wanted to get their cars ready for the shows and stuff. The enthusiasm was there.
Yeah.
So there are all the cars here in Cincinnati work. So I don't need to do the shop, and I was getting burned out anyway.
Sure.
I went through 4 different groups of cars, fixing all the cars. They're all fixed. And now people know how to take care of them.
Yeah.
They're not falling apart as fast. And when they do, they just bring them in, and it's a simple fix as opposed to, bringing in a car that hasn't run for 3 years.
Or 10.
They know they have to run them. They know they have to replace the batteries.
Yeah.
They know they have to do something with the air conditioning.
Sure.
They know. They were taught through the shop, whether it be mine or Cliff's or Dave Bowerly's up here. So there are a number of shops here in Cincinnati. We just working on DeLorean today. Okay, I'm taking apart an engine to rebuild. I've got an old engine that I hadn't done anything with it, and it's just sitting there, so we decided to just go ahead and rebuild it. So
Nice.
we'll rebuild the engine and throw it into a car. Don't know whose car it's going to get, but there'll be a new engine in somebody's car somewhere along the line. And I get things like the hollers will come around, and I've painted his fascia for him and done some other work on his car for him. He's called up when, Ken, I'm broken down. Can you come and get me? And I'll go get him.
Nice.
Or, hey, we got some problems. Can we come in and work on you? So my shop attracts a lot of people traveling.
Yeah. And you did mention the fact that the show drove a lot of people to get their cars ready.
Yes.
People that came to DeLorean Week in Las Vegas who are coming from the other side of the country, from specifically Ryan Foster is coming from North Carolina. He drives back and forth across the country many times in his life.
Right, right.
He and Don Dina are going to drive their DeLoreans across the country for DeLorean Week in Las Vegas next year. And they started
Yeah,
a thing saying, hey, we're going to do a convoy. There's a surprising number of people that are saying, oh, we'll meet you. We'll join you along the route.
yeah. Well, the cars were thought not to be reliable, and they are.
They are,
Once
yeah.
they're running, they're reliable.
If they're taken
My
care of.
car's reliable.
I'm sure I bet yours is. But I think, to your point is that something like that is, you're right, it's going to drive people to go, oh, if I'm going to go drive thousands and thousands of miles in a DeLorean, I better get it ready. So I've got a whole year to plan and prep and get it ready. And sounds like people are starting to get, they're excited to do that kind of a drive. I'm thankful that there's people like Ryan Foster pushing that and putting it together because, like you said, it is a lot of work. And most people will talk a good game, but they won't actually do anything.
Right. We've had 25 cars in the shop in one night.
Wow.
Or people come in for Thursday to work on the cars. And everybody what I did is I started teaching people how to do certain jobs. And so when it was on a car, that person would work on that job, no matter whose car it was.
Right.
And that way we trained a number of people, more like especially like doing the brakes, doing the mode switch, things like that.
Yeah.
We got people the steering bushings. We had people that were they like to do this job. They would do it. And then we've had some people that are just really talented here that could do well. And Cliff was extremely talented. He ran a different shop than I did. I ran I'll call it a chop shop, where we chop the cars up and strip them down, get them back to the point that they're cleaned up.
Mm-hmm.
Then we might take them down to frame,
yeah,
and then put them back together. Cliff's garage, on the other hand, we did more of the modifications, the fancier painting and powder coating, and he had a dyno tester there, and we did stuff like that. And he had a lift over there. I did not put a lift because I knew that if I put a lift, my shop was going to get inundated. Well, when Cliff passed, I had no choice but put a lift in my shop, in which immediately I got inundated even more. My fears were realized.
Okay, so going back to your ownership, have you driven your car across the country, or have you driven a DeLorean across the country?
No, I've got 10,000 miles on my DeLorean.
And you bought it in what year again? 96?
1996, and it had 2,830 some miles on it.
Wow. You've only put 8,000 miles on the car in almost 30 years.
On that car.
On that car. How many have you owned over the years?
50.
You have bought and sold 50 DeLoreans. Wow.
At least, yeah. I've lost count. I really don't know the exact number. But keep in mind, I gave away a DeLorean at every show.
Yeah.
I raffled off a DeLorean at every show.
Right.
So I had to buy those.
And fix them.
So you're looking at, there's 10 of them right there.
Wow.
We gave away the cars. So there's 10 right there. And a number of them I bought and sold. And in a lot of cases, like in Philadelphia, I got a call one time, hey, there's this guy, he's got 2 DeLoreans out here, and he wants to get rid of them. They're stuck in the dirt.
Mm.
And I go, what do you mean they're stuck in the dirt? They've sunk. They're buried
to the
down
frame.
To the axle.
Yeah.
So we took them. I mean, they were so rusted that I couldn't even get the lug nuts off. When we tried to take them off, we had to actually just cut them off.
Wow.
They would not coming off. We got into that. Dave Titelbaum calls me up, and I'm in Micro Center. He goes, I got this guy. He's got 3 DeLoreans, and he wants to sell them to you for X number of dollars. And I went out there and I bought all 3 of them. There's 5 right there.
Been around.
Yeah, one of them is made now into the car that's the Back to the Future car that Universal uses.
In Florida?
So, yeah.
Wow.
That car was purchased from a friend of mine, and he's, Universal use it.
Nice.
So they're happy with it.
It sounds like you met John DeLorean and his brother.
Oh, I've met John a number of times, yeah.
Any good stories about DeLorean?
Had dinner with him at Fidelli Scalini's in New Jersey, and we had about a 2.5-hour dinner. I was kind of interested in that. Instead of talking about DeLorean, he was more interested in talking about Smokey Yunick. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
Who's Smokey Yunick?
Smokey actually narrated one of his tapes, and he's into cars as well. It's too long to go into the whole story there, but we'll do that some other time.
He was a car guy, though.
But
okay.
Oh yeah, and well known to my generation, not yours. But he's one of the legends in cars. We went through talking about Fred Dallas and the turbos and things like that. And so we talked about a number of things. John was pumping the next car, the carbon fiber body car. This is going to be the next greatest DeLorean around. So he talked Smokey Unic, he talked carbon fiber car, he talked different things. Very little about the DeLorean.
Yeah. Well, understandable.
So I just thought that was kind of interesting. No, he loved the DeLorean.
Sure.
He's just a person that's a visionary. He's always on to the next thing. The DeLorean's already done.
Yep.
Let's talk about the next project.
Yep. Very cool.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I had many conversations with him on the phone. We talked with him a number of times when he was up in Cleveland. We had breakfast with him each morning and stuff. So I got a fair amount of time with him there. But I was working in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm at work there, and I get a call in the middle of the afternoon, and he just wanted to talk for a couple of hours.
Wow.
And I'm at work. It's like, John, can I call you back? No, just a few more minutes. So it was kind of fun.
How fun.
So I had a couple of conversations there.
Good connection. Good opportunity. Wow.
John was personable to me, and he was great at the show. I'm glad he made it. I've heard different reasons from John and that on why he didn't attend other shows. A lot of them had to do with health, where he was not in good shape and didn't want people to know that he wasn't, he had some issues health-wise. I told John, you're welcome at the show anytime.
Nice.
I wish I could have gotten him back again, but I only got him for the one.
Yeah.
But I'm the only one ever to have John DeLorean in a car show. And when he passed away, I'm the one that they asked to get cars up there. We ended up getting 30 cars up to his funeral.
Wow. You've done so much. I have all different questions, but I don't know if is there favorite stories or anything that you enjoy?
There's stories all over the place, and depending on the day is the story. I mean, it's just kind of every show has a story somewhere to it, and it's just kind of fun. Like when we were in Memphis, that was probably the one show that I thought was going to end the shows. We had a very bad first day. It was the only show that I had that didn't go over well the first day. We had to split the hotels because we had the Heartbreak Hotel. We bought the whole hotel. Then I had a Radisson Hotel there. So we had split guests. That was difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
It rained. It poured. It screwed up what we were going to do that day. So now I've got to move my dinner from where I was going to have it to inside the ticket booth place because we were going to have it outside on Graceland property. So now I have to change, while registration's going on, the entire dining venue and figure it out.
On the fly.
On the fly, yeah. And then I find out that Ryan Pelton, who was my Elvis, was arriving, and I didn't have anybody to get him. So I sent Oliver Holler in a time machine to the airport to pick up that. And we had Eric Geerding's sister and father singing on stage outside. It was just, she was on American Idol.
Oh, wow.
She was real good. So was he. And then we had Elvis pull up. And all this is going on while I'm trying to make things work. Because
it was pouring rain and split hotels. How funny.
Yeah, well, actually, that was the next day when he pulled up and I had other things going on. But that one night, we had to change everything. And that did not go well at all. We decided to hold back and not say that there was going to be another show.
Oh,
my wife and I decided that was it. It was over. It didn't, it was bad. I would have to thank, a couple people for bailing us out. There was a few people that took the reins and just jumped in and tried to make the best of it, and it worked out. But the next night, we went to the Hollywood Casino in Tunica, which is about 35 miles away, and did our second night event there. That day, that whole day and the night went perfect, and everything went really, really good. And we decided to do the next show. And then when we did the next show, we announced that it was going to be at Pigeon Forge. And all we could hear was pigeon what? Pigeon who? Pigeon.
So you went from, in 2002, Memphis, that you thought that was going to be the end of the show. But then I've heard a lot of people talk about the 2004 Pigeon Forge DCS
Yeah.
as being a good one.
Yeah, it wrecked 3 DeLoreans.
Oh, no. Wait, the Memphis one or Pigeon Forge?
Pigeon Forge. 3 DeLorean, actually 6 DeLoreans were destroyed.
What? Okay, I don't think I've heard that story. I heard Pigeon Forge was really good, a really good show.
It was a good show. Okay, going out of Memphis then, like I said, Memphis did not go terribly well at the beginning. At the end, it did. We also had problems with the music at Memphis. They would not give us the copyrights to do music, and they turned me into I forget the name of it now, the music
licensing
company
board
that has the rights. Yeah, you have to, sign up.
Yep.
And so they came after me, and because I had Ryan Pelton, an Elvis impersonator, I tricked them and letting him get on there. I said, "Can I sing Elvis music?" And they said yes. And I said, "Okay." So I can have somebody. Yeah, great. Okay, I'll get somebody to do Elvis songs, and they were all happy with that. Then later on, somebody said, "Well, can you tell us who?" After I had the contract signed. Okay, I made sure of that. I said, "Ryan Pelton." No, he's an impersonator, not allowed on the property, period, done. We had a lot of limitations. He was not allowed to wear an Army uniform. He was not allowed to wear any outfit that Elvis ever wore.
Wow.
So he had on this white jacket, which made it look like the Hawaiian thing, but Elvis never wore that. So we had to do a certain outfit. They said if he can't shake his hips, he can't do this, he can't do that. So when he came in Oliver's car, he got out, started singing. I had 3 lawyers sitting in the front watching every move he made.
Wow.
After about 15 minutes, the lawyers left. And Marianne, who's in charge, said, "You can do whatever you want. They love him."
Nice. So Memphis turned out good.
Yeah, and so like I said, Memphis was tough. Memphis, I had all sorts of issues with it. There was a lot of problems with that show. That being said, we decided to do Pigeon Forge, and what we had was nobody knew what Pigeon Forge was, and I thought it was going to be a great show, and I was right, of course, but we started getting the cars. Well, going to the car show, there was 2 cars that got smashed. One got rear-ended, and the other backed into a fire hydrant while they were trying to wash the car for the show.
Oh.
At the show, Josh Haldeman, who was helping me, and this is supposed to be secret, but it's not. It's a worst-kept secret. His sister, who didn't drive a stick, was asked to move his car, which was sitting in front of a room. And she got in the car and turned it on, but it was in gear, and the car
Jumped.
And it went right through the window over the air conditioning into the bed of the room.
Wow. It
made the headlines, and DeLorean Car Show smash hit with a picture of
smash hit.
Oh, yeah, it was pretty good. A DeLorean Car Show is a smash in Pigeon Forge or something to that effect. Everybody was sitting there trying to figure out what's going on, and it worked out best for everybody. The people whose room it was were very upset that their room got smashed, and they show up in the lobby and say, "We have the room with the car in it. What are you going to do about it?" The hotel gave them a luxury suite. Those people were very happy. So they went from regular room to a luxury room. The hotel was happy because that room had given them problems, and now it's smashed. So they got a whole new room fixed for free.
Right.
With the car going through it through the insurance company. So they weren't even upset with it.
Plus, they got some from notoriety and attention.
They got the press out of it.
Yeah.
Everybody was actually, this worked out just fine. And then one of the guys on the Dragon Run, there was a couple cars that were smashed up on that one. And it's ironic because the ones that got smashed up were local people that drive it every day.
Oh, boy.
It wasn't one of us people that were tourists. It was the locals that smashed up the DeLorean and the rental car. In addition to that, we had those little model cars, the DeLorean little models, that you get.
Yeah.
People left them in their cars, and they melted. So 3 DeLorean model cars were destroyed. So we teased that 6 DeLoreans were smashed up that weekend.
Wow. Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. I didn't know it got that hot out there.
Yeah, it can get hot. It was just hot enough that the cars melted.
So of the 10 shows that you did,
yeah,
Do you feel like sharing your favorite and your least favorite?
The Memphis was the least favorite.
Least favorite.
Just because of the problems that I had.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do, even though I had problems with the Graceland. The Graceland people were good. It was the first time trying 2 hotels. It was the first time trying a number of things. They just didn't work.
Yeah.
The people didn't really see it, but it rained. There wasn't any room in the hotel. Then the hotel told us we couldn't stay in there because of fire marshal, which means we had to move the meal to inside from outside. We had to then get the table set up so they could move the people out of the hotel because you couldn't just send them out into the parking lot.
Right.
So, like I said, it was really a mess.
Logistics-wise, not that people had a bad time. It was just logistics-wise, it didn't go the way you wanted it.
Logistic-wise, it didn't work. For me. There are other people who thought that was the greatest show in the world. It all depends. And it was hot then.
Oh.
And it was outside and it was hot. That's what made me think the next show is going to be inside a convention center. So that's the show. Memphis is the one that got me to go and get into a convention center.
Got it.
So that was that.
That was your least favorite, and then your most favorite?
That's kind of hard to say because each show had something different. Obviously, the last show was the most entertaining. It was actually pretty easy to do. It was fairly local. I didn't have to haul a lot of stuff. So I kind of enjoyed that one. I enjoyed the Gettysburg show. That was huge. That was fun watching 10 cars go on a car transport and bring them all there.
Wow.
It had a lot of unique stuff that was there. So I enjoyed that one. The Cleveland show, obviously, with John was kind of special. So, there was something for everybody in that, for the shows.
Mm-hmm.
So pick a favorite or pick, those were the 3 that stick out in my mind as being something special happened at them.
Yeah.
All the shows worked.
Sure.
Like I said, even Memphis worked. I just had to work my butt off. I got no sleep. I did not go to bed the first night.
I talked to you at this last DCS, and again, the short amount of time that we had to chat, I really wanted to learn from you because things that you've learned from doing those big shows, I feel like can be applied to literally local car shows for local clubs. What advice do you have for people in their communities and the local DeLorean communities when they're trying to put on an event or come up with something, not the size of DCS, just for their own people?
Well, they're doing it now. Lots of people do it. And that's just the whole thing. Just do it. Too many people talk and they don't do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the worst enemy that you've got. I don't know how many times I had people say, I will help you at the show. And they get to the show and they do not help you.
Yeah.
You've got to do what you say you're going to do. And that's why I didn't go for a lot of volunteers because I didn't want to rely on that. I ended up getting a crew consisted of Cliff and his family, Josh, Mark Levy and his group, absolutely excellent. The Arizona group, they each took a phase of the show and made it their own. And that's where it works. They did what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
While I made the show happen, they made the show.
Yeah.
They might have done the obstacle course. They might have done the registration. And it goes on and on and on. I had problems after Memphis with the registration. Mark Levy took it over. He said, look, that's just too much for you to handle and set up and do this and do that.
Yeah.
Which is correct at that point. I just gave it to him because that's what he wanted. Cliff wanted the stage. I gave Cliff the stage.
And you trusted them. Obviously, there's that level that
I had to.
You didn't do it the first time you met them. You knew these people.
No.
You trusted them. And when they said they'd take it, you could let them do it and know it was going to get done right.
Yeah. Right. But I always told them, remember, the show's going to be run. It's my money putting up. Because I had to put up between $10,000 and $30,000 up front for these shows. People didn't realize that. And it's like, oh, you're charging this and you're charging that. Yeah, there's a lot of money. These shows were not cheap.
Yeah.
And I gave them better than average stuff. It was kind of interesting. Some of the food that they got was extremely good. The food in Chicago, St. Charles, that food was really, really well prepared. And one thing people don't realize, going back to Pigeon Forge, we had 3 tables set up with double access to it. So we had 6 lines to feed 450 people in a very short period of time. None of the food on those tables was the same.
Oh,
It
wow.
wasn't 3 identical tables. The reason was the chef who was going to do the car show quit the previous week.
Oh,
The guy that ran the Dallas stadium was a friend of the Seatons who owned the place. And he called the guy up and said, the guys had been talking about, retiring from the Dallas stadium. And he was, the head chef. And Ken Seaton said, I need help here. I got an event coming up. Can you come up and help me? And he said, sure. So he's up there on Wednesday night. I'm up there on Wednesday night. There was kind of a little uprising with the hotel. The Smoky Shadows staff left, walked out, and the chef, because they wanted pay raises, whatever. He owned 40 of the hotels. So we had some hotel issues. We had some other things. They did a great job of taking care of it, and to compensate people, they gave us a free breakfast for 3 nights. We had the orange juice and donuts and stuff free. So they took care of it. Nobody knew. It was fine.
Yeah, nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes. They're there to enjoy the show.
But I'm there on Wednesday night. We're feeding food Thursday, and he says, what am I supposed to have? Do you have the menus? And he looks at the menus. He says, there's no way I can do this menu. He says, but if you'll just allow me to do something for you, I'll promise you that it'll be nice. And you'll be able to feed people, and they'll be happy. And I said, fine. He went to the Kroger's that was there, and there was no time to buy the quantity of food.
Yeah.
So he bought as much of anything that he could find and put it together. It was all fresh, no frozen. And we had pork chops, we had fish, we had chicken, we had beef, we had, you name it. But there wasn't enough to feed any one person, all of it. So each table had something different.
It was a single chef potluck.
Yeah, it was. But
Awesome.
They did a beautiful job on it. The tables looked nice. My wife did the desserts. They were at the end of the tables. The food was excellent. In fact, I was totally surprised because I thought we were going to have a really bad experience there. We didn't. It was perfect.
Nice.
And that probably was one of the best presentation things. The best food, again, was probably in St. Charles, Chicago. That was a little bit different type of food, but it'd be hard pressed to say that there was much of a difference between the two.
Yeah.
And the one thing I have to give to Rich in his things, I have always wanted to do a plated dinner, a more formal plated dinner one night. I never could manage to do that in the price frame that I had.
Right.
It's like $10 extra per plate.
Right.
You got people serving you and everything.
Yep.
And I just couldn't get it to work.
Looking to the future, I'm really, really, really hope you will consider going to the DeLorean Week in Las Vegas this next year.
Oh, I plan to. I planned on doing it this past year. I was supposed to be going with somebody else, and it didn't work out last minute. And also, I had the cancer, so I didn't get a chance to try to do the details beforehand. I wasn't really up to full speed, and I didn't want to travel this one alone, and it just didn't work. So my plans were to be out there. I'm one of the people that I never get sick. It can't happen to me. And one day I was in just a physical thing, and they gave me one of these little colon take-home kits. I did that, came out positive. I ignored it because I kind of didn't follow the instructions, figured I got a false positive. I went and got the colonoscopy anyway. I came out positive.
Wow.
And it was so bad that they said I'd had it for 7 years, roughly, and that it had to be operated on immediately. They went ahead. 2 weeks later, I was in the hospital, and that was it. So I guess my word of advice, and I'm using this as a message, don't be dumb like I was. Get your colonoscopies when you're supposed to. I've already saved probably, 2 people for sure. I have saved 2 people from possible death. They went and got their colonoscopies because of what I did, and 2 of them found out they had cancer too.
Ugh.
And there's probably about 8 or 9 people that I've talked to that have had to go get them that would not have normally. Fortunately, just 2 out of them. One of them right now has cancer. He is on chemo, and his prognosis is 50-50. The other one was early enough that they caught it.
Wow.
So don't delay. Use me as the example. I felt great. I didn't think there was anything wrong, but I didn't feel a thing, and that's the silent killer.
Yeah. I'm glad that you're doing well and you're over the cancer.
So am I. Yeah.
Well, I met you at the last DCS. I assume you'll be at the next
Mhm.
DCS as well.
I'll be out next year. I definitely will.
Awesome. I don't know that everybody knows who you are, and the main reason I know who you are is because of DCS, and then as I've become friends with Kevin Crin, who you've worked with a lot on
Mhm.
his car, I've heard a lot about you, and I'm a history nerd, so that's why I wanted to get your story on DCS, and you've been around a long
I'll
time.
give you a story on Kevin.
Okay.
Kevin is funny because he came to me and he wanted a car, but he didn't have the money at the time, which is true for someone his age and everything.
Right.
And so I said, I got a car here. I can build for you. So well, I'll have the money on such and such a time, blah, blah, blah. Again, no problem. The money never was an issue. But the thing is, Kevin, once he started the build starting, wanted that build to end and get the car in his hands. And we went through a whole bunch of stuff. He wanted to do the fancy stuff.
The digital dashboard stuff.
The problem is it gets in the way of what I'm doing.
Right.
I can only put the car together so far before it has to go back and forth to his place. So he got his car. It's still not complete yet. I still owe him some stuff on the car. I still have to fix his air conditioning and stuff, but I couldn't get his air conditioning because he has crap in the way.
Right, all the computer parts.
And we had a leak in the evaporator, and I had to take his dash apart again to get the evaporator out, which turned out to be a real pain in the butt. So Kevin got his car, but he's the only guy I built the car for that was not stock, because I only sell cars stock so that I know they're going to work and that I don't have any issues.
Yeah.
His car has had all sorts of little things here and there because, hey, this isn't working. And it's like, yeah, but it's your wires, you know.
Right.
But yeah, but where does these wires go for those wires? I don't have his wiring memorized.
Right.
So when something doesn't work, I don't know where the short is.
Yeah.
And we tried to track something down one time. I knew what had to be wrong, but because of the wiring, it was nowhere near where I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, he's done a lot of changes.
Yeah, finding things, and I don't want to tear things apart because I don't know how to put it back together. So when he gets it, hey, this isn't working. I said, sorry, you know, I don't know how it works. It was kind of funny. I've enjoyed working with Kevin.
Nice. For those that haven't seen Kevin's car, krintech.com, KRINNTECH.com. There's at least one photo there, but he replaced the binnacle, or the binnacle is still there, but he replaced the dashboard with a digital screen. And then he put a center console that kind of looks like a Tesla, big touch screen in the middle there. All the lights are computer controlled. He's done a lot of stuff to that car. So I can understand why it was hard for you to build that car, because he was trying to do all that stuff while you were building it instead of doing it after.
Right. I never could check, you know, like, how do I do the turn signals when they're going through his computer?
Right.
I don't know that the lights work. You know, I mean, I can light the light up.
Yeah.
But I don't know if everything's working right.
Right.
You know, because I don't have access to that computer because he's working on it up there. I got a car with wires that disconnect, and
Yeah.
I can't check everything out. So
Nice.
this doesn't work. This one, then we got to figure it out.
Yeah.
So it was a challenge, but I mean, it's worked out, and you know, Kevin's done a great job.
Yeah. Well, Ken, I could honestly probably talk to you for another hour. I really appreciate your time.
Someday, give me a call back.
Do you have any other favorite memories?
Like I said, there's so many different things that go on. I think the one thing, though, that really helped push this along was the groups, and the groups are important. And I have a feeling that just recently, since between the economy and 2008 to 2014, and then the politics and stuff, I don't think these groups are as tight as they used to be.
Yeah.
They used to be very, very tight. They've given up the group and the inner contact and social for online. And it's not the same as hands-on. It's just not the same.
I agree with you to a point, but basically nothing was going on in Southern California. It was a couple of parades a year.
Yeah.
And I got tired of not having a community, so I started the Orange County DeLorean Club, and we had 2 tech days that had 14 DeLoreans show up.
Yeah, and that's great. You're doing exactly what I just said. You're getting people together. That's what needs to happen.
I totally agree. And the Brandies with DeLorean Week in Las Vegas, people keep coming back, and it is such a fun, relaxed event. I love DCS for being as structured as it is. I love it. But I also love the way they do DeLorean Week in Las Vegas because it's so relaxed that you have a chance to visit and talk and you get to know people. So I feel like,
Oh
yes, the
yeah.
internet changed things, people kind of disconnected, but now I feel like people are coming back together for some of these events. DCS is always great and DeLorean Weekend is great and all the local clubs. This is why I love doing this show is talking to people, hearing what they're doing in their local area. And I want to get all the club leadership around the world to get on the show to help other people be inspired. Say, oh, you guys are doing a poker runs or you're doing car shows, whatever it is, to get people to come out. Because there are so many cars that are out there, and there's a lot of owners that, even though the internet is out there, they don't know who to reach out to.
I still find people don't even know who I am. They're less than 5 miles from my shop. I'm working on a car right now that the guy brought it in. I don't remember how he heard about me, but all of a sudden this car shows up. I'm having a problem with my car. Oh, okay. Where do you live? Oh, just down the street. How long have you had the car? Since 1986 or 87. And there's numerous ones like that. We have another guy up by Liberty Township. One day out of the clear blue, I get a phone call. I got a car. It doesn't work. Brings it down. We get it working. It's working now. I hardly see him anymore because it's working.
Because it's working.
Yeah, but he does come when I ask him to show up. He's appreciative, and he does show up at my events. You know, when I need the cars, we have that. But a lot of people, once the cars got working, they went off on their own, and I never saw them again.
Yeah, bad for business, good for the community.
Mm-hmm.
You'll still be there when they need you. Something that I forgot to ask up front. Where do you live now?
My main address is in Cincinnati, Ohio. I also live in Celebration, Florida.
Got it. Well, Ken, I'm always thankful that people take the time, and I've been begging you for the last year or longer, and I'm thankful.
Yeah, I've been begging. We've agreed. We just haven't connected.
The time hasn't worked out, and I'm really excited to have you. And if anything I can ever do, let me know. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next year in Vegas. And who knows, maybe you'll join the convoy coming out if you feel like driving.
Well, I've really enjoyed working with the DeLoreans all these years. I've manufactured tons of parts for these things, which you guys are still using today. And it's just one of those things I've enjoyed doing. It's time for the next generation to take over, which is why I gave it to Rich. Hopefully your generation, somebody there will take it and run with it, especially in California. You got so many cars.
Yeah.
You can get people to show up. That would be great.
Yeah. Well, DeLorean Week in Las Vegas definitely is pulling from California. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks again, Ken.
Yeah, well, thanks for you guys listening to me for this podcast. If you want me to come back on, just let them know. I'll be glad to.
Awesome.
And if you want to ask him questions to ask me, that's okay too.
Awesome. That would be great. All right. Don't forget to submit your DeLorean census record on DeLoreanDirectory.com/census. Spread the word. Let everybody know what's out there. DeLorean Directory has tons of information, links to every other site that I can find out there, and lots of info. So start planning an event in your area and let us know, and we'll promote it here. Drive safe.